squeaky-ish. I don't know what he's doing. All right, I'm gonna crack it, but yeah. Hey, I'm Israel Everett, director of Call, and welcome to Director's Debrief. Let's get into it.
Praise the Lord, make it dope. That's the whole mission.
Why Call?
So, I wrote Call because I was in a season where I just got off my last big film, Damages. And I was like, I really want to do something smaller, but still really impactful, and something that can boost my skills. Because I knew I didn't want to do another 45-minute movie. It just wasn't, I didn't have it in me. It's just, I didn't think I had anything that was worth being 45 minutes. So, I just started writing little script ideas, just little tiny things. And Call started out as 5 a.m., a script called 5 a.m. And it was just a really short story. It was only like 5 minutes. It wasn't even the full 16 that Call ended up being. But it was only 5 minutes, really quick. And I was kind of just like, okay, this is decent, good enough. I'll make it my next film. But then I started thinking about it. I was like, this is a lot of budget heavy stuff in there. I was like, maybe let me just put this aside. So I started working on my third film, Under Sun, instead. Which is why you guys got that film first. But as life happened during 2025, it was a really rough year for me. Call started getting, 5 a.m. at the time, started getting edited and eventually became Call. And that's when we started adding features like, for example, Boy 2. That was really where I started just kind of changing some things, because originally 5 a.m. was a group script, and then I started changing my perspective. I was like, I think it just needs to be really personal, and the best way to do that was to have one main character. But then I still wanted to be, because I love the chemistry between characters. I was like, what if there was another one of him that's in his head that represents fear and anxiety? And then I kind of built it from there. And the only thing that's really stayed the same between the two versions of the script was the phone itself. So yeah, that's why Call happened. It just felt like, and in a lot of ways, it was a response to what my mental state was in 2025, which was I was depressed. I wanted to, honestly, I wouldn't say it was quite suicidal, but I wanted to leave Earth. So I wanted to make a story about someone who felt that same way, and how do they navigate that? How does the world of faith interplay in that? Because in my life anyway, God is a constant. So how could I feel this bad and God still be there? What is the relationship between those two constants? I was just interested in, as well as the relationship between race and religion, which is what I also want to get into. So that's why I made Call, really. It's a response to what I was going through.
Where do you find your inspiration from?
So yeah, Call is a very tense movie. It's very suspenseful. I'd say, honestly, a lot of that happened in the editing phase. Now, when I was writing it, I knew I wanted it to be like a much darker film, and I definitely wanted it to be more serious, but I don't think I'd rewritten in the tension as much, because a lot of that came in post-production, where I was like, I wanted it to feel a certain way. But, and this was complete, again, like God's timing, because I didn't plan on this. This is so silly. I started rewatching Hunger Games, specifically Catching Fire. And it was during the time I edited the movie, so really the last few weeks of editing, it was really just edit, take a food break, and then I'd watch Hunger Games and then get back to editing. And how Hunger Games used to really have these tense moments, I really wanted to bring that to Call. So I was just looking at what to create that intensity in Hunger Games. It wasn't just like, obviously, the fact that Jennifer Lawrence is there and they're in a serious situation. It's not really a situation. It's the sound design. So I was really getting into what sounds I wanted to use, how I wanted to incorporate them. And also I wanted to make sure I wasn't overdoing it, because I think it does get to a point where it's just audio noise and it's like, okay, why is this here? So it was really just balancing that. And it, like I said, a lot of that happened in post-production. But I also think it elevates what's happening, because I think that's how a lot of us feel when we have to go into the unknown. And that's obviously the whole theme of Call. It's like, will you go out your comfort zone, and how does that feel to have to make that decision? So,
Is Call a Christian film?
Obviously, my faith in Christ is number one in my life. It's something that's changed my life forever. That being said, with Call, I think whether it's a Christian film or not is interesting, because I think it's a very similar conversation that we have in Christian music and Christian rap. Like, what does it mean for somebody to even be Christian? Is Christian art as a concept, a real, is it like a genre? People try to put it as like a genre, or is it just like a value that's incorporated in the music? For me, I, going into Call, had no intention of making something that was just for Christians. yes, I wanted Christians to be able to enjoy it, but I also wanted other people to be able to, you could be an atheist, you could be of any other walk of life, maybe even a walk of life I don't identify with, but still it'd just be like, you could still process it and still get something from it. And that's what I wanted to go in with. It wasn't somewhere where it's like, this is only for the Christian population. It was never that when I was writing it. And like I said, it's just, in terms of whether it's a Christian film, I don't see it as one. I see it as I see it as a piece of art that has Christian values in it. But that's the same thing as, like, for example, a Kendrick Lamar album, or like Renaissance paintings, for example. The Renaissance paintings, a lot of them have Christian values, like in it. For example, the creation of Adam. But no one's saying, "Oh, that's a great Christian painting." No, we're just saying it's a great painting. So, that's where I'm at with it. I don't mind if someone were to call it a Christian film. I'm not gonna have a controversy about it. I don't think there's a problem with it. But I think it's more impactful if it's not limited to that title, if that makes sense.
What was the selection process of choosing your team?
I think behind every great artist, we're looking through music, through film, through any kind of media, there's a great team. So I was watching a lot of this music album, documentaries and stuff. And I'm seeing these people work with artists like Lauryn Hill, Kanye West, those type of people. And I was getting really inspired. I was like, how can I cultivate a team like that, who can really back me up and really help curate the vision? So I started just looking around my school and getting people who were interested in helping out. I got my friend Ramel to do a few songs for the movie. Unfortunately, not many of those were used, but still, I mean, it helped kind of encapsulate the idea, helping develop the idea. I got my friend John David as the assistant director. And there's, even the actors, like a lot of them are creatively inclined. So it was really just about finding people who see your vision. I think that's really important, because if not, I think you fall into a trap where you're the only one who can see it through, and they aren't really there. And that's not their fault, but they're just not. So I think that's the most important thing I'd say going into it. I was like, I really want to find people who see the vision. And not just that, but they can help me develop it even maybe from farther than, take it further than maybe I even initially saw it, which I think I was able to find. So,
How did you grow as a director while leading the casting crew?
I would say, starting out from when I was a kid, writing was just something I loved to share. But I think as I got into something like, like talking about like middle school and like those years, it was kind of like more something I kind of hid. And it was like something very personal to me. So going, obviously with this film, I had a team. So going from being very personal, hey, this is between me and God, to, hey, y'all can pour into the idea, give some criticism, was not easy for me at all. But I think it was something that I realized necessary, so I kind of just bit the bullet in a lot of ways. And I also think I was able to see that the people I chosen were trustworthy and there were other creators. And when you have other creators working with you, there a lot of times, not all the times, I know there's situations where maybe people aren't connecting, which is fine. But I was very blessed in the case to where people were able to see it and they're like, okay, like, do we want to articulate this thing differently, or like the ideas they brought in very much developed the idea they didn't take away from it. So I think it was really able to build with the crew I had, which I'm very thankful for. Thank God, honestly. But yeah, no, and I also even think like just knowing when to expand it was a really big blessing, because I'm glad I developed it at first kind of just personal, but once it got to a point where it could get actually added on to and stuff, when I was comfortable with it, and it made it a lot easier, because then I was comfortable with it and it was intentional. I don't know if it would have worked as well if I was just kind of just throwing around ideas and people would have got into it. I would have probably been a lot more difficult to work with. So I think it's about knowing when you're ready to get the idea to other people.
What makes this film different in comparison to others?
I want y'all to hear me on this. Hear me well. This is very much the most God-driven project I have ever done. Because if things would have gone my way, I may not be here. I'm gonna keep this day. So I think as I was writing Call, or when it started transitioning from the original 5 a.m. idea, which is what the script was called originally, it was very different. When it started just transitioning from that to Call, was one of the most like depressing times in my life, and I was just not in a great space at all. And I had just lost my grandmother. I was feeling a lot of college pressure at the time. There was a lot on me, a lot of things were happening as well. So I think being under all that pressure and relying on God more than ever, I think really affected Call, and that's what differentiates the production of that one from the production of the previous ones. The previous ones, even in that way, like, yes, I relied on God, and definitely those wouldn't have got done without God. I feel like Call I really did like I was submitted in prayer for like a lot of it. And not even just the God aspect of it. I also think Call had a very childlike creation to it because I was really giving myself room to breathe and go. I was just telling myself like, hey, this is not for the people. Like, yes, it's for them, but it's not like it doesn't have to be loved and accepted by everybody. You know, who's gonna hit first? Who hits first? You know, it was really just letting me create and letting me write. I think for Understanding Damages, there was a bit of I need to prove myself. You know, like I need to let people know I can really do this for real. Call it was more like, okay, you know what? I have a message I want to bring to people. Who hit first gonna hit first. Who doesn't, it doesn't. You know, I just want to create this. You know, so I think that's the two main ways this is different from, you know, the previous two or previous, even down back to like higher to the previous three. So,
What does the phone represent?
so in the film, the phone represents whatever you, because we never specify in the film, but it's whatever. It's two things. It's whatever decision you have to make that takes you out of your comfort zone. In a way, that's what it represents for the audience, and for the boy, it represents not only whatever his decision he has to make, but also should he talk to God in particular. That's who the phone's to. At least that's how I visualize it. You saw it a different way. You know, it's cool. It's a film. But yeah, that's what it represented as I was writing it. And I also wanted something for the audience to latch onto, but I didn't want to make it too specific because once you make something very specific, I think it loses some of the power sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, all right, that's what happens. So I even think in terms of how did it come about, from the jump, I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't even this deep originally. It was just like I needed a prop that was cool. I was like, okay, phone. And I started thinking, what could this phone represent? And then I started going. But then once I started like really getting deep into script writing, this script got rewritten like the 4 times. A lot of times I rewrote this joint. So I just started getting more meaning. Like I wanted everything to have like a deep meaning to it. I didn't want it to just be like, this happened because X, Y, Z. Cool, I'm done. It wasn't like that. I wanted everything to have like a real purpose. So yeah, I would definitely say it's both the unknown and also going to God to your like that's what the phone picking up the phone. When you pick up the phone, that's what you're doing. You're talking to God. I also think it simplifies it a lot because this is a deep answer, but I think when you pick up a phone, right? I think a lot of people when they talk about talking to God, they think it's like a whole prayer thing. It's like a whole, you know, like a oh my gosh, like you know I have to do this that I'm not like in a space to do that. When no, I think it's really just like because I'll talk to God, I'll be like God, what's happening, man? Like I don't know, I don't know what you really want from me. So I think simplifying it into just hey God, like I need to talk to you. I think that was the whole purpose of using the cell phone, not the cell phone, but the old school phone in that way.
Answering the call requires discomfort. How do you navigate the tension of breaking out what's familiar and fully letting go of the old to embrace the new?
I would say as you reflect, you do. I think the past, ignoring, I think the mistake a lot of people make is they ignore the past completely because they don't want to fall back into it. I think there's a difference between reflecting on the past and reliving it. I think a lot of people, they get stuck in a constant nostalgia because it's like, oh, like, you know, like, oh, I missed this part of my life or I missed this other part. I think reflecting, mean like that time of my life was good. What was I doing then? How can I apply that to the now? It's very healthy. I think when you get trapped in that past, that's where it gets a little bit muddy, which is where I was kind of at a certain point, which is why I made Under the Sun, by the way. You can check that out, link in my bio. But I think it's really that differentiating those two experiences, as in reflecting or reliving. I think that's the key to that.
Here's a few questions from my viewers. What does the bear represent?
I would say that my favorite character in the film is Bear. And I would say what the bear represents specifically is childlikeness. And I think, as I said, as I was, you know, writing the movie, I really want to get back to that childlike creation where it didn't matter if people were going to get it. It didn't matter if X, Y, and Z. I just wanted to create it, you know, and I just wanted to just freely create something without worrying about expectation. I think the bear in a lot of ways represents that. And even like making that concept into like a character, the whole bear thing is very inspired by hip hop, which a lot of my artists, specifically, if you guys know Kanye, well, y'all know Kanye West. Kanye West's first 3 albums, Graduation, College Dropout, Late Registration, Graduation, I'll have this graduation bear on the cover, which I just thought was the cool. I've always rocked with that. Also, Childish Gambino's music video for 2005, there's a bear on with him just there. And I've always thought that was just the cutest thing. Even as a kid, I had a Winnie the Pooh teddy bear I used to bring everywhere. I had that thing since I was an infant. I still have it. So I just think it was the perfect way to represent like a childlike sense, a type of pure creation you can only get in childhood. And in the film, it offers it offers like a way out of expectation in a way, and a way out of deadly comfort, because I think we tend to throw childhood as like a way to like it's something we can't have anymore after a minute. But I think it's nice to keep a little bit of your child self in order to grow. I think you need it.
How did the commercial play an important role in developing the plot?
The commercial in the middle is actually, I'd probably say, really important to the movie, because I think throughout in the first half of the film, because we always jokes, me and the assistant director, we were always joking like this is structured like an album, because you have the first half, then you have the interlude, then you have the rest of the project. So the interlude / the commercial really just hones in on everything Boy 2 says in the first half of the movie, which is stay comfortable, stay where you need. We don't need to answer the phone, stay where you are, stay in the system, like play the game. And I think the commercial represents the system in place and how it traps us, which is why it starts off with the thing that says like sell your soul. I think that's what the system wants a lot of us to do. It's just like if we stay in the system, we'll be comfortable, because why would you actively address your problems when you can just scroll your way out of it? So I think it's actually very important to tie in like the whole plot line. But I also think it just was a cool code switch, because I was like, let me just give the audience a break to be like, whoa, what are we going into? I thought it was a nice switch it up for the pace. So
What's next for Israel Everett?
What's next for Israel Everett? Wow. Honestly, I have a lot of ideas for films. They've just been coming to me in like dreams and stuff. It's been really interesting. But honestly, I've always said I have to make sure these ideas are developed. I never just want to half do anything. So we'll see where God takes me next in terms of which film to do next, and when that drops. I'd love to have something out for y'all during the summer, but we'll see if that's what God says. In terms of just other stuff, I'd love to finish out school, because I am going through college currently. Y'all know this is all independent, small startup stuff. But we're really just making our way to that first feature, first feature-length film, and hopefully a film festival or two. So that's always what we're building towards. So yeah, and just building a community, even expanding the crew, I'd love to do. Well, that was the first Star Man Director's Debrief. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Black Hollywood forever, and I'll see y'all next time.
Praise the Lord, make it dope, that's the whole mission.